Good morning, everyone, friends and family. Thank you for being here. It's a privilege to be with you in one of America's most sacred places. This is a safe harbor for the voyagers of the Mayflower, 102 founders of the Plymouth colony who fled long ago the Crown's persecution to find refuge here. And a new land of hope and promise. Here among the timeless shrines, including Plymouth Rock, replicas of the Mayflower, this colony, is a beautiful monument to our forefathers. And perched atop that monument is a statue of Faith, with her eyes fixed towards our Creator, from where all help comes from, and in whom lies our hope, an everlasting hope. That hope in these trying times is very well placed. I want to thank the Pereiras for having opened their home to this extraordinary and potentially unexpected occasion. This is truly a historic place. This home, this was the first community center in the United States. This is the first place a fair, just election was held in a free land. This is the place where America's first peace treaty was signed, which endured for more than 55 years. An extraordinary place, and I am truly humbled to be here. Our framers knew that the investment of power into a single person leads inevitably to tyranny and persecution. This was not the Creator's plan for humanity. I have also been told that this building was the template for civics. And since politics first occurred here, one might say that on this side of the ocean, perhaps this is where our political struggles began. But in reality, this is a beautiful place. And what started here does not have to be finished in this generation or the next, or even the generations beyond that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This situation that we find ourselves in as a nation reminds me of the man who took his son and wanted to teach him to play golf. And pretty soon, he's swinging at the ball making its way, and pretty soon that ball finds its way to an ant hive and takes a big divot, and with it, many of the ants. And soon, the son hits another one, and it also hits the ant hive and takes a big chunk right out of the middle, carrying away most of the hive. And then finally, one of the ants that's left in the hive says, "Well, I think we'd better get on the ball." We, as Americans, as citizens of this great nation, have a window, and we'd better get on the ball. Because we are living in serious times. When I think about our nation's precarious situation, I am reminded of Psalm 27, verse 1. That says, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. And except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain." So as we labor in the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, we must never forget this admonition. Even with the best builders and the most powerful military, our nation must return to its foundations, or we will continue our drift and our fade into darkness. A government by and for the people must be subject to whom it serves and protects, and they in turn should rely on their Creator for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. With so many years removed from the tyranny like our forefathers experienced, we may not find cruelty that relatable today. And yet, we only need to look at the headlines today to feel the hot breath of tyranny on our face. Around the world, darkness and destruction is rising. These times are like the armies rising out of Mordor, described in Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. Evil armies, once defeated, lie dormant, waiting for a new strongman to revive and bring power to destroy nations and peoples. They are preparing to march on the free lands of man. Tyranny, when unchecked, becomes judge, jury, and executioner. It steals, it kills, and it destroys. It denies justice, abolishes unity, and extinguishes faith, hope, and freedom. Tyranny works in all dimensions to undermine trust in what is right and what is just and in what is true. Tyranny's motives are never benevolent. Its means are fear, and its ends are the absolute control of human free will. Today, the global order established by the Treaty of Westphal in the 1600s is besieged. This system of shared values, based on mutual respect for life, goodwill, and liberty, is being overcome by both established and rogue states who are generating destructive waves. These waves are reinforcing and amplifying in a shared purpose to weaken and overcome the United States of America, our allies, and our partners. They seek the destruction of freedom's last safe harbor. We are that safe harbor. A nation at strife with itself cannot resist evil. It will surrender to the will of others from exhaustion. A weak and demoralized nation is a nation that cannot stand for liberty. A broken nation is fertile ground that cultivates history's strong men and tyrants. The manner of these men who, when taken together, have broken and killed billions of innocents in the pursuit of power, vanity, and prestige. As these waves crash against the shores of our homeland, our peaceful lands are being flooded. The waters of tyranny are rising around us. These waters threaten to wash away the foundations of our republic and even democracy itself, as they push aside our laws, justice, peace, goodwill, tolerance, morality, and our most sacred trust for one another. These are all moved by the wayside. The aim of this revisionist bloc, make America irrelevant. In some cases, their destructive activities can be seen, and in others, they're nefarious and hidden. These forces are colliding with our foundation stones: liberty, life, justice, goodness, and the unity of our people. We know that once tyranny has bent a nation, it moves next to extinguish free will, and even the will that allows us to choose our God. Homer once said, "History, it's the oracle of truth." As we consider the times, I'm reminded of Pastor Richard Wurmbrand, a Jewish man who became clergy in the underground church in the former Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain. The communist government decided that it wanted to control his congregation, and so they offered him a deal. You give us the names of the people who you know and who you serve, and you can represent us. Or you can go to prison, and your family can go to prison. And so he chose loyalty over self. He chose sacrifice over his family because it was the right thing to do. For 14 years, Wurmbrand was tortured in a communist prison daily. And he walked in kindness and benevolence toward his torturers. He said, "You do your job and torture me, and I'll do mine, and I'll tell you the truth." And in many cases, his torturers ended up in the cell with him. A power testimony to the overcoming strength of grace, mercy, and forgiveness. After being ransomed in the 1950s for $10,000, he came to the U.S. Congress, where he stood shirtless, bearing the scars from his body. And he said these words: "Every freedom-loving man has two fatherlands, his own and America. Today, America is the hope of every enslaved man, because it is the last bastion of freedom in the world. Only America has the power and spiritual resources to stand as a barrier to militant communism and the people of the world. It is the last dike holding back the rampaging floodwaters of militant communism. If it crumbles, there is no other dike, no other dam, and no other line of defense to fall back upon." My friends and fellow patriots, we must never tire in our struggle against tyranny and evil, because evil is only stopped when it strikes against a united people who are immovable in their resolve to defeat it. They must be fortified with moral courage to resist for as long as it takes, no matter what it takes. Not so long ago, Ronald Reagan said of communism, "We are at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in this long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it has been said that if we lose that war, and in so doing, this way of freedom of ours, history will record with greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening." Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that we were intended by our founding fathers, and this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except sovereign people, is still the newest and most unique in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election, whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite and a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. It has been less than a generation since Reagan uttered these famous words. So I'd say, there's truly nothing new under the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, revisionist forces have pushed deeply into our society and into our homes. Now, we can't in certain company even refer to basic natural genders without anger and confusion. When in human history has society fallen so far from common sense and survived the ordeal? The 2024 presidential election distills not just to the future of this nation, but to its survival. We are on the horns of perhaps the greatest dilemma, strategic dilemma, in America's short history. We can no longer talk about promises or positive change. We must do change. Internally, we face radicals and revolutionaries working to turn our republic inside out with political strife and planned campaigns of revenge. Externally, we face powerful blocs of revisionist states, including Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, working together to toss international stability and weaken and ultimately defeat the United States of America. If we allow our government to be taken off its feet by radical disruptive change over the next 4 years, our enemies will close ranks and exert power not only over the United States of America, but also over our friends and over our allies. They will do this while we are in chaos. This is why our adversaries are attempting to influence our free and fair elections. They benefit from our strife. Their desire is to win without fighting. We are just months away from the 2024 presidential election, but this campaign is far from settled. The American people are restless, and for good reason. We are waiting for a dark horse, for a dark night to wrestle back our nation from the clutches of evil, because we need a shield. Year after year, neither candidates on the left or the right are addressing genuinely valid voter concerns. And with no candidates offering original ideas and the ability to stabilize our nation, the American electorate is ready to leave behind hollow rhetoric, radical partisan divisions, and support fresh and intelligent ideas with bold action, all supported by a foundation of common sense. My friends, help us on the way. It is time to refocus on reform. America needs reasonable leaders who will do reasonable things. A political outsider with character, a man of steel, one of us for all of us. Someone who has a reservoir of resolve that no evil can overcome. We must have someone who understands that during the next 4 years, we must do more than deliver platitudes, political promises, and hits. Results must be delivered to the American people, and this person must unite our nation. We want to be united. We want to get together. Because if we fail to unite, we know deeply in our hearts our republic will fail. Our founding fathers told us, united we stand, divided we fall. And they were right. Our task, should we choose to accept it, is to find a president who can manage the complex international environment and strengthen and heal our nation at the same time. It is a reasonable requirement for one of the most powerful offices in the world. We need a president who can land the jet rather than fall off of it or crash it, chasing personal ambitions and self-interest. We must have authentic leadership. We have been disappointed from being lied to and having our intelligence insulted with carefully crafted narratives designed to evade truth and obscure facts. We want truth, and you deserve it. My friends, what I can deliver for the United States of America is a program designed to assemble the best talent and minds that our nation has to offer. A turnaround team for this republic that will focus on results and not partisan divides. My team will rapidly move our nation from dysfunction to high function. We must have America's Avengers on point, and I will assemble them. If you are one of these Avengers, prepare for a call. You will be getting it. But moving to high-functioning governance means implementing a program of patient reforms rather than damaging convulsions. It means focusing on performance and outcomes rather than politics, vengeance, and parties. We have to change direction. Today, we pay more taxes and fall under more regulations and receive less in turn for our enduring daily headache than ever before. Our government is engorged more than any time in history, except perhaps a little less oppressive than before the Declaration of Independence. But we're trending that way. In spite of all these things, I'm absolutely confident that we can turn our government around and return it to a government that works for we the people. Our Constitution is fundamentally sound. It is an inspired document, the bedrock of our nation, the bedrock of our ability to check human ambition and tyranny. And so I will focus on protecting the Constitution rather than tunneling through it or going around it. I will be a performance-focused leader who offers fresh ideas and complete solutions to our problems rather than suggested improvements and rounds of edits. America's challenges are mounting, and we are dying a death by 1,000 cuts. We must solve issues like our anemic military, runaway illegal immigration, and our self-destructing economy with runaway inflation. These must be solved right now, and we can solve them. It's just that we have lived under bad government for so long, we seem to have forgotten how to demand what we require. It is time to check those demands, but our ability to return America's health distills to one thing: character. Character is the material that makes a person a good and just soul. It is comprised of, among other things, altruistic motives, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, faith, and of course, courage. Actions, not words, tell us the character of a person, because actions speak far louder than words. What we do matters the most, not what we say. My friends, we are at a tipping point. These things, faith, vision, and character, will determine our future as a nation. The troubling character of our age requires a special kind of character to lead this nation through turbulent times. It requires character that has been forged. Therefore, we must have a president with faith, vision, and character. We must have a president who has the ability to unify our nation. We must have a president who respects the United States Constitution. We must have a president who leads with fresh and powerful ideas and solutions. We must have a president who can form a team of the right kind of talent to turn our nation's direction. A president who is young and who has the stamina and the fortitude to go the mile, because that's what it's going to take. We must have a president who will bring America back into safety and prosperity, and who will act as America's shield. We must have a president who will lower our taxes and take the burden of regulations off of industry and businesses, regulations that they're presently being crushed under. We must have a president who will reduce the size of the federal government and push responsibilities back to the states where they belong. A president who will solve illegal immigration issues, and a president who will lead by example to reinstall honor, values, and common sense in government. If previous generations had a time of choosing, this is ours. If America does not elect leaders with the right faith, character, and vision, we, like Rome, will ripen to the principle of decay and tear away under the own fabric of our weight. That is to say, we will be in a perpetual state of decline. This is the choice. Only we can prevent this. In science, the first principles are foundational assumptions upon which other scientific knowledge is built. These are considered self-evident or basic truths, not derived from any other assumptions or principles. Our nation's first principles are contained in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. I'll read them. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. These founding ideas, including others from the Magna Carta, the Mayflower Compact, informed a U.S. Constitution that boldly put the selection of the President of the United States upon our shoulders. yours and mine. I would submit that we hardly comprehend how extraordinary this is, the power that we have in our hands to choose the chief public servant of our land. How great is this responsibility? We, the people, must deeply understand the character of our next president and what they represent. They will lead us during a period of instability unlike any since probably World War II. Because if we insist upon keeping our freedom as a people, we will be targeted by the powers of the world and likes which the world has not seen since humans first gathered. Notwithstanding our power as citizens over time, we have allowed moneyed interests and special interests in elites, better known as the establishment, to choose for us appropriately groomed and approved candidates who leave us continually shocked and amazed and habitually disappointed. Do not lose heart. I am reminded of the words of Winston Churchill, who said, "When in hell, keep going." We are being told to cede our freedom, but we must never settle. For a little rest and reprieve today, just hand over a little more of your freedom and control, and things will get better. And now, we find ourselves in deep decline. We are amazed at the speed of our falling. What does it mean? I believe it means that we have come to our generation's time of choosing. We can no longer abide establishment candidates or political elites wedded to partisan positions at the expense of the people. The confidence of our nation's citizens is fading. Many are beginning to doubt the most incredible experiment ever undertaken by men. We must water the tree of liberty, not with the blood of patriots, but with the sensible actions of an engaged, committed, and unified electorate designed to select and elect a president from among us, one of us for all of us. This was the intent of our founders. As an imperfect person of faith, a military veteran for more than 20 years, who has seen intense combat the world over, as a father to my 5 children, a husband to my beautiful wife, Shannon, a manager at my small business with global impact, as a scientist and inventor, and a national security strategist, I believe with great certainty that we must return our nation to the first principles now, before it is too late. So how can we do this? First and foremost, a government that derives just power from the consent of the governed must deliver tangible results to the American people. For the United States, this nation has always valued humility above arrogance, charity above cruelty, engagement above cold indifference, and unity above strife. America does not rally to those who coronate themselves. We, the people, are an independent and free people. We see things as they are. So we choose freedom. We choose strength. We choose stability. We choose hope. We choose a future. We choose our faith in our God. We choose values and common sense. We choose these and other things to return and align with the purpose of this nation, dictated and directed by the hand of providence. I'm someone like you. You may not believe it, but I've hit my finger with a hammer. I've received speeding tickets, and I've grumbled when the dry cleaners burns my clothes. I've dropped a few choice civilian words when no other expression will do, and I've had to put $1 in the swear jar. I've attended AA meetings with broken people who needed my compassion and who needed my support. And I've experienced hunger. I have also experienced homelessness. And these were due to the impact of poverty and injustice. I have suffered with you through devastating economic times. I have watched regulations suffocate our businesses and kill opportunities. I have wept with those who wept, and I have laughed with those who laughed. And I have done all that I can as a citizen of this land to uplift, heal, and overcome, working to solve some of the most complex and confounding challenges of our age, including water security and emerging threats to our homeland. Threats that can tear away our life and our liberty in an instant. Besides my faith and my family, I am most proud of the time I have served with my brothers and sisters around the world, those who shared the honorable cloth of our nation with me in uniform, putting themselves in harm's way for something they believed in so dearly that they would die for it. We defended our home from danger and those who wish to control us and take away our freedom, and our mission is not complete. Over time, like you, I have looked in astonishment as the land we love and cherish is run into the ground by corrupt politicians and special interests, and tyranny has been allowed to take up residence inside of our borders and in our own government. In concert, these have happily traded away our future for self-advancement and greed. Their legacy is shame and embarrassment. We require leadership that can land this plane. We can provide that for our nation. We require leadership that can unite us, not just appeal to our base instincts. We can provide that for our nation. Leadership aspires to rid a nation of cynicism when everything says, I can't change a thing. Leadership fights disillusionment when everything else says, give up. Leadership lifts. Leadership binds us together. Leadership renews our vision and reminds us that we can make life better together. And one of the most powerful forces that works among us is forgiveness and the willingness to let it go. Leadership says we can rediscover our purpose and standing as a beacon of light and hope for the world. Come alive again, America, to what it is to be part of one of the greatest nations on earth. You and I are Americans. We stand for what is right, for what is just, and what is true, no matter what you are being told. You know this deeply, and it's true. And don't let anyone rob you of it. You and I are Americans. This is our time to choose. I can say without a doubt that we must unite. We must stand together. No more divisions. When we unite, tyrants cannot drive us apart. When we unite, external powers cannot take us down. When we unite, we rediscover our compassion and the better part of ourselves. That part we all admire. It's time again to hold our heads high and embrace one another in friendship. My name is David Stuckenberg. Today, because of you, because you've called me and asked me to serve, I formally declare my candidacy for President of the United States of America so that I can work with you to unite this nation and achieve results that will uplift this and future generations. I ask all freedom-loving Americans to join with me in this moment and in this movement. I will need your help as we face giants and knock them down one by one together. As we boldly stand, remember, failure is never an option. This is our time to choose, and we choose to be united. I will always keep faith with my God, with you, and with my fellow citizens. May God bless you, and may God bless America.